Hello my friends, and welcome to this lunar report, which I am creating under the Pisces new moon, but which can be enjoyed under any moon. The point of the lunar report is that I am tapping into lunar energy to deliver messages as to what journeys, what pathways are opening up for you that you can take advantage of and what they could blossom into if you maintain that effort. When you are ready, the timestamps are down below in the description. I will catch you at your reading. Hello, pile 1 to your lunar report for the Pisces new moon. Now let's dive into where you are currently at this point. When you're watching this reading, we have the 9 of Pentacles. The challenge, or rather what the new moon is creating for you, the opportunity, we have the Queen of Swords. The first step that you can take towards this opportunity being created for you, the world, okay. What it'll look like to maintain this energy. The 4 of Cups reversed. What this will blossom into. The Ace of Cups reversed. And what will be different after all of this effort. The Star. So these readings are timeless, meaning that they can be watched at any time under any sky, under any astrology. But I do want to point out that at the time of this new moon in Pisces, Venus is in Pisces. And why I'm mentioning that is because Venus in Pisces, or rather this conjunction between the new moon and Venus, does then create this moment for a look at relationships and how we feel in them, what we gain from them. It's one way to look at it. And this reading is definitely about the breaking of emotional ties. So we start with the 9 of Pentacles, which is all about a wealth generated over time. So this card answering the question of where you are currently at, where the new moon is meeting you at, basically. And so this wealth that you've generated over time is definitely not one of a material wealth. If you are materially wealthy, that's not what we're talking about here. And I'm getting that from the rest of the cards, but this wealth that you've generated over time, it's a sense of safety. It's a sense of security, stability, the opposite of what you were feeling in the past with either a specific relationship or relationships that you have maintained in the past. All right. And so the challenge, I keep on calling it the challenge because that's what we call it in the Celtic cross. And this is kind of like inspired by a Celtic cross, but it's not. I'm using this card to answer the question of what the new moon is creating for you, what path it's creating for you, what blessing it's creating for you to take advantage of, if you put in the effort to take advantage of it. The Queen of Swords is a figure and energy that has broken free, but understands that despite the time spent in oppression, despite the time spent through trial and tribulation, she remains open to whatever comes her way. In this deck, she clutches her heart despite holding this weapon, and it's that idea of listening to her heart, honoring what's there, and being willing to defend what it is that she feels and honor what it is that she wants to do, basically, where she recognizes again what she's been through, the trial and tribulation, but that doesn't stop her from allowing herself new experiences. And so this wealth that you've generated over time is everything that you've created for yourself after a time of trial and tribulation. And you've spent enough time away from that to feel the benefits of what you've created for yourself away from all of that. And what the first steps you can take towards this blessing, the world, which is the major arcana, arcana's last, card in the sequence, because it's card 21. So a card of endings. But this card, the world, is a demonstration that all endings are a cycle, or rather a portal to a new cycle. In all endings there are new beginnings, because life isn't a movie. There aren't going to be credits that play until we basically die, and even when we die, life goes on. So all endings are really just the creating of something new, the opportunity to step into a new cycle. And so this circular symbolism. But the ultimate type of ending, one where it's understood that the cycle that we're stepping out of, we can never step back into, and the cycle that we're stepping into is the one that we want to be in. So away from those things in the past that you've spent enough time away from, that you now recognize, okay, those things happened. I've done my healing. I've generated this wealth over time for myself of comfort and stability. And now it's time to, demonstrate it to the world, to the universe, to myself in every way possible, that all of that is done, and I'm never going to step back there, and I'm only going to step forward. In fact, moving away from this last cycle, closing it, means I am never going to step back into it. And the only steps I'm going to take forward are further away from these cycles I'm closing. And so what it'll look like to maintain this energy, we have the Four of Cups reversed, which the Four of Cups upwards is a hesitation to accept anything new, despite being offered new things from divinity, or just really good opportunities that are coming our way. And so reversed, it's us accepting these new opportunities, accepting the blessings that the universe has in store for us, and moving away from that hesitation, basically. The blessing being demonstrated by the Ace of Cups reversed is what gave me that indication of the wealth that you've generated over time being a result of the separation from a relationship or a type of relationship. Because the blessing in all of this work is that no new emotional start will be generated anywhere in the past. Where there have been cups in the past, you're not going to refill them, you're not going to pick them back up. In fact, if something going on right now is that there might be an opportunity for someone from the past, or someone like the people you've dated in the past or maintained relationships with in the past, if it's not about romance, if there is something sprouting, something like that, what's being said here is that the blessing in this work of really protecting, defending this wealth that you've generated for yourself by not moving backwards there, is that where in the past you might have been able to have feelings for someone like this, the blessing in all of this work is that you'll no longer be able to generate feelings for someone like this, because you'll have done the work to recognize what that is for what it is, which is something not worth offering your cup to. A blocked cup, a cup that is rejected. So if right now you feel like that person or that type of person is the only type that you're ever going to want to like or love or want in your life, the work and this effort of, again, closing cycles and defending this wealth that you've generated for yourself, I keep on repeating it, is that eventually you'll learn to just not want these things anymore, to really recognize why these things aren't worth your time, your emotion, your effort. And so what'll be different in the end is a vulnerability, a type of vulnerability, one which is reflective. Like she's facing all of this, she reflects in this pool of water, so there's a lot of space for reflecting on everything that's happened so far. But the star is also about hoping and wishing, so remaining hopeful for everything in the future, remaining open to it, like what the new moon is creating for you in the Queen of Swords. This energy of recognizing what's happened in the past while remaining open and hopeful, and having not wishful thinking, that sounds wrong, but having wishes for the future, wanting to expand into it, hopeful and open. I hope that this helped. I will catch you on the next one. Bye. Alright, pile 2, welcome to your lunar report for this Pisces new moon. This is a timeless reading, which means you can watch it under any sky, under any new moon, or any moon rather. But let's just get into this reading, shall we? Where are you currently? We have the 7 of Swords. The new moon is creating the energy of the 4 of Swords for you. The first steps to take in this endeavor, we have the Queen of Cups. What it'll look like to maintain this work, we have the moon reversed. What these efforts will blossom into. Nice. The 8 of Cups reversed. And what'll be different after all of this? Judgment reversed. So where you're currently at, we have the 7 of Swords, and the figure in the 7 of Swords shows someone basically being a thief. And it's not that you're a thief, but what I'm getting from this card is put yourself in this character's shoes. It looks like they're going into a camp and she's carrying swords, stealing swords from them. So this is a soldier's camp. And yeah, she's carrying a bunch of weapons, but she has her hands full, so she can't really defend herself if she gets caught. What I'm trying to indicate is that this is a high stress situation. She has to remain quiet, she has to remain undetected, and she has this mission to fulfill. And so where you're at right now, and what I'm getting from this card is there's this. It doesn't necessarily have to be a high stress situation, but there is definitely a sense of stress that you have been carrying with you for quite some time now. And what the new moon is trying to create for you is a sense of repose, a sense of, laying down. It kind of feels like a comic strip where this is the next image, after this, where once she's gotten away, she can rest and put this weight down, set it on the ground, and rest. And so there's this sense of relief from the 7 of 4 in the same suit, where what the new moon is trying to create for you is relief. Now, what the first steps towards this relief looks like, we have the Queen of Cups. And what the Queen of Cups indicates to me, it reflects a little bit this imagery in the 4 of Swords, where she's holding on to something and the Queen of Cups holds her pregnant belly. This idea of in this repose, in this relief, or rather the benefit of seeking that relief, of seeking the repose and rest, is because you'll then be able to nurture and take care of yourself, of course, but also give the proper time and attention and space and nurturing to the parts of you that have been stressed, the parts of you that are wary of carrying so much. A sense of allowing yourself rest for the sense of nurturing yourself, and if it applies, your wounds. And what it'll look like to maintain this energy, to keep it going, it's okay. So there's 2 things I'm getting from it. On the more metaphorical side of it, or rather to keep like the story going, right, where we start out with this high stress situation to endure, this moment of repose after, and in this moment of repose, something to take care of, like you taking care of yourself. The moon reversed continues that in the sense of the moon showing this forest where I see it as this journey continued. The moon upwards would indicate this journey being like after this sense of repose, you pick up the swords again and you keep on going to face everything that's in this forest shrouded by the darkness of night. But reversed, it's not so much saying like give up on the journey or just stop here because it's not worth going. It's not so much that. It's rather seeing it as choosing not to travel when you can't see clearly or where you can't see clearly. And so to give a more mundane example of that, or how I'm kind of interpreting that here, is if the moon upwards is about, again, the way that the night shrouds everything in darkness and creates illusions in that darkness, where in the daytime we can see things clearly, in the nighttime those things that looked clear in clear daylight now look like something else entirely. And in the moon reversed, as this answer of as the answer of what it'll look like to keep all of this going, it's this understanding of, you know, the high stress part, the things that have been stressing you out, really taking the time to decide how real, how realistic, how relevant those anxieties are to your current moment. Meaning that in the past, there might have been a reason for why you were carrying the stress and feeling that stress and things that you had to, you know, maneuver through, trials and tribulations, if you want to call them that. But the moon reversed is then this moment after all of that in your present where you're asking yourself, do I have a reason to still feel that specific stress? And go into your specific stresses. Like, you know, if you get stressed going into a crowded room, ask yourself why that stresses you out and if that's valid, and, you know, go from there. Whatever your example is. And obviously, if the anxiety is valid, honor that, go from there. But the purpose of the moon reversed and what I'm seeing in it is in you putting an effort to see which of your stressors still apply and which ones you've just been carrying. You'll start to find that some of the anxieties you were feeling were just an illusion. And it's not, that doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't exist in the past, but rather that they're not as relevant in your present as you start to do this work, as you start to nurture yourself and you start to, you know, repose and give yourself rest and relief. Seek those things, you'll start to notice how there were some stressors that you've put down and that you decide you don't want to pick back up because you don't need to. And the blessing that all of this effort will blossom into is the Eight of Cups reversed. And why I said nice is because it continues the imagery of the moon, where in the moon card itself we see it full, and in the Eight of Cups we see it in a crescent shape. So different phases of the moon during this lunar report, right? I just loved that. But also what's nice is the message of the Eight of Cups reversed is one that indicates not moving from where you are at. And this, you know, not moving, this lack of having to travel. And so moving from, like, there's a progression already from the Seven of Swords where we start to the 8, but where in the Seven of Swords we're traveling and, you know, stressed out because of the things that we're carrying and how long we've been carrying those things, you know, the things that were real in the past that we're carrying. What this will all, if you know, do the work of taking care of yourself and seeking relief and addressing what is an illusion and what isn't, you'll realize that there isn't a need to continue to carry the things you've been carrying, but 2, you don't need to move in the ways you've moved in the past. And C, if it applies, there's no need to move from where you are at. And what I'm getting from that specific message, if it applies, cool. If it doesn't, leave it. But if part of this stress is, having to hide parts of yourself, or having to, avoid certain things or people, or there being a maintenance of something that, and the maintenance of that thing stressing you out, the Eight of Cups reversed is indicating like, no, I'm not going to move that way anymore. I'm not going to move out of the way. I'm not going to move from here. I'm claiming my space here. Where I'm at is where I'm at because I want to be. And I don't need to move from here because what stressed me out in the past isn't real, or, doesn't have that strong of an influence over me anymore because I've done this work to, take care of myself and question deeply what is still relevant and what isn't. And so what will be different after all of this, once you realize and, stand your ground and really decide that, you're not going to carry things the way that you did and you're not going to move the way you did in the past, Judgment reversed. So Judgment is kind of like Judgment Day. And so Judgment Day takes on a whole bunch of different meanings depending on the context. But here it's like, I'm getting it as what's different after all of this is that this Judgment Day, this looming sense of this thing that's going to come, the root of this stress, it never came and it doesn't exist anymore. That looming sense of danger doesn't exist anymore because you've done the work to, one, see what isn't really relevant, what you're not really willing to be stressed about anymore. You've recognized your willingness to stay where you're at or to not move in the ways that you've moved in the past, and because of that, the things that doom that existed in the past, it's now laid waste and you've moved into a new day. One where, again, this Judgment Day that you had kind of imagined all along or you've been carrying for so long isn't, that's not something that worries you anymore. And even if it were to come, that quote unquote Judgment Day, you've grown, you've developed past the need to be stressed about that. If it comes, you can handle it. You are who you are today, and you are better and grown and different for it. I hope that this helped. I will catch you on the next one. Bye. Okay, hello Pile 3 and welcome to your lunar report. Where you are at currently, we have represented by the 7 of Swords. What the new moon is creating for you, the 5 of Swords. The first steps to be taken towards this blessing, towards this opportunity, the 5 of Pentacles reversed. What it'll look like to maintain this energy, the 3 of Swords reversed. What these efforts will blossom into, the 5 of Cups reversed. We've got 3 5s so far. And what will be different after all of this work, the Emperor reversed. We begin with the 7 of Swords, answering the question of where you are at. And the 7 of Swords depicts a high stress situation. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that you are currently under a high stress situation, but it could very well be a stress that you've been carrying for some time. And the 5 of Swords as the answer to what the new moon is creating for you in response to this 7 of Swords energy of where you're currently at. the opportunity to confront it. Because the Five of Swords is confrontation. It's the willingness to fight and win. And so, again, confronting it, taking a stand to this stressful situation. And it's not so much about relief. It's not about seeking, well, it could be about seeking to end the stressful situation, but rather what I was trying to say, it's not about running away from it or seeking something else. Rather, it's about turning around and facing the root of this stressful situation. And for the purpose of defeating it so it's no longer a problem for you, basically. That why I'm getting that, why I'm understanding it as a stress that you've been carrying it for a while. It isn't just because the Seven of Swords depicts a stressful situation and it's where you're at. It's also the fact that all of the cards outside of these first two cards, they're all reversed. And we have some pretty intense reversals. I mean, no, we just have intense cards where we have the Five of Pentacles, which depicts poverty, the Three of Swords, which depicts heartbreak, the Five of Cups, which depicts grief, and the Emperor, which, among so many things that it could depict, it can very often depict something oppressive, somewhat oppressive, especially when coming up reversed. But I digress, because it, as what's different after, it means something else. But then also the Five of Swords, and again, just these two cards also depicting like stressful situations where the Five of Swords is something of confrontation, which is, whether you like confrontation or not, confrontation, you know, it is taxing. And the Seven of Swords, you know, stealing and having to like watch your back, it's stressful. So this idea of something that you're carrying which needs confronting in order for you to gain any type of relief, the first steps to take towards that, the Five of Pentacles reversed, the Five of Pentacles upwards, is again the depiction of poverty, of lack. And so reversed, it's this idea of the first steps being recognizing, okay, one, if it hits, recognizing the ways in which you are not as lacking as you think. That might mean being more grateful for what you do have and recognizing those things and understanding the ways in which you are wealthy despite the lack you are confronting with the Five of Pentacles. The Five of Pentacles reversed is also a recognition of the things that impoverish you. So the things that drain you of your resources, whether it's something draining you of your literal money, and you kind of needing to cut that off in order to, you know, cut on the stress that we're talking about. But if it's not about money, it could be about any of your other resources, your attention, your peace, your integrity, whatever it is. You think of your resources and the things that deplete them. The Five of Pentacles reversed as this response is the first steps towards confronting this stress. It's to address what is depleting you of your resources in the first place. And from there, to maintain that energy, it's to start to seek relief from the mental torment of dwelling in things in the past, dwelling on your heartbreaks. Now, that doesn't mean ignoring your heartbreak and, you know, not doing the work necessary to facilitate the processing of that heartbreak and, you know, relieve it. But the Three of Swords reversed is an understanding that the heartbreak that there has been space for must now come to a close. And so what it'll look like to maintain this energy in order to see it blossom into something, it's to actively stop the ways in which you create this heartbreak for yourself. It's not that the heartbreak didn't exist and, you know, it's not about ignoring it. It's about understanding the ways in which you yourself maintain it for yourself and understanding that it's now time to confront that as one of your stressors, you yourself being one of your own stressors, and the ways in which you continue to maintain these heartbreaks, whether through nostalgia and memory, through actively continuing those things that have broken your heart. Whatever the case is, part of this work is about seeking active relief from that heartbreak. What these efforts will blossom into, we have the Five of Cups reversed, which isn't necessarily a bad reversal, or as intense as the rest of these, because, well, I guess none of these reversals have been intense, because this reversal is a moving away from like being drained of your resources. The Three of Swords is seeking relief from that heartbreak, and if since the Five of Cups is about grief, the Five of Cups reverse is about moving away from that grief, collecting, recognizing what there is still to be celebrated, to enjoy, to have, and moving with those things, grasping those things in order to move clearly into the future, away from the things that were causing that grief, this heartbreak, this draining. And so what will be different after all of this? The Emperor reversed. Now, I said earlier that the Emperor reverse could indicate an oppressive figure, and it's not so much like, that's not what I'm seeing it as here. It's more so that I'm recognizing the Emperor as something in complete control over everything under him, or under you, basically. And so reversed, what's different in the end is you relinquishing control over these things, relinquishing your place in it, relinquishing the way, all of this, it's like, where upwards the Emperor, you in the past have been the Emperor of this kingdom of grief and sadness, and you've been here long enough that you've ascended to this place where maybe even part of this is a control issue, where maintaining this grief is a way for you to control your story, where because you're so comfortable here, if you maintain it, you don't have to go and venture into new things. Where what will be different when you confront all of these things, and address the things that need to change with all these reversals, you relinquish the need to control all of these things, to maybe even control your story, or if it's not any of those things, it's just the releasing of this kingdom in order to move forward from all of these things. Another thing is that the Emperor is a representation of Aries. Mars. And, Mars in the olden days being the god of war, and reversed then being like war being over, no longer needing to, like, what's required in the present is confrontation, a war against all of these things. And what will be different in the end is that war being over, basically. There being peace. So a lot of work to do. And, the blessing, it doesn't really sound like a blessing, right? Confrontation and war. But the thing is, why it's a blessing is because you can be victorious here. In the end, there can be peace and relief, and an addressing of things that really do need to be addressed, these challenges. Godspeed, my friend. I really hope that this helped.